Many immersive sims, as far as there is actually a genre, seem to share numerous defining characteristics. Among others, games that are considered immersive sims often feature character progression, specific character abilities, equivalent utility items, NPC infighting, some form of stealth gameplay, destructible environments, and minor environment simulation. What's at the core of these features is probably more defining for the entire genre than the features themselves, and that is a certain programmatic genericism that allows for gameplay elements to interact with each other rather than just reacting to the player. However, I won't go into that in this video. Let me instead focus on one specific feature that has appeared in both immersive sims and regular games throughout the last 20 to 25 years. In this video, we'll be talking about the infamous Sentry. The Sentry basically comes in two flavors. One could say it's either as an active or a passive entity, but to be less abstract, let's say they usually appear in the form of a camera or a sentry gun. Systematically, these two are pretty much the same. They scan their surroundings for elements they don't like and engage in their systematic behavior, whether that is opening fire, notifying surrounding AI agents, or even spawning them in the level. Sometimes the functionality of active and passive entities, so cameras and sentries, is even connected. Now, it wouldn't be an immersive sim if these entities just had bare-bone behavior. What distinguishes sentries in immersive sims from their counterparts in other games is that you can often reprogram them to some extent. They will then, for example, seek out NPCs rather than the player. This is where programmatic genericism comes in handy, because for the sentry, the player and the NPC are just two similar actors of a different type, distinguished, for example, by their respective faction alignment. For Monomyth, I wanted a similar system, because it adds a lot to the gameplay while being relatively simple to implement. If I'm not entirely mistaken, System Shock 2 actually implemented its cameras for a similar reason. I believe I read that in a book about game development, but don't quote me on it. So the system I thought of was a simple reprogrammable sentry gun. Of course, guns don't exist in Monomyth's fantasy setting, so instead I would repurpose the fire trap from the demo and adapt it into a sentry. I first made the central part into a separate mesh so that part could rotate independently and track your movement. To make it a bit more creepy, I also gave it glowing eyes and a buzzing sound whenever it activates. Talking about activation, the Sentry is active whenever a character enters its custom perception volume. It keeps track of all these characters and re-evaluates their hostility whenever they enter the volume or the Sentry is reprogrammed. A character is hostile when it has the wrong faction alignment. In Monomyth, certain factions are always at war with each other, and their hostility status is managed in a data table. So every sentry basically has a faction alignment, and it checks that table with it. Now, when a sentry is reprogrammed, its faction is set to the player faction. It re-evaluates all present characters and starts shooting at them. The reprogramming is done through a separate maintenance box, which requires a lockpick and the associated lockpicking skill to be opened. Once open, just flip the switch between the preset faction, the player faction, or turn the whole thing off. I hope you found this interesting. If you liked this video, please feel free to check out the other parts of this devlog. See you soon!